Good afternoon, everybody. I'm slightly gonna move the target and postpone the entire DPP talk to the end. I'm gonna just give you an overview of what the trends are in file delivery, in global workflow, and especially how this can scale up to the cloud and what the benefits in some use cases are. So the agenda I'm gonna go through is really what the trends are.
That's a fast delivery.
Yeah, that's very fast. I hope it's gonna go fast. What are the challenges, what we as Aspera try to solve as pain points, and what are some of the use cases? So the trends of the current market, I guess we all know about it. The data are exploding, and the main reason for that is not only because we are increasing resolution, but as well because we are increasing the number of deliverables that we have to do. Second screen experience, multiple formats, we all know that. So it's always about bigger and bigger files. And the networks we have to deal with are of different nature. We go from local area network to the internet. And the workflows. Before, if I think about 10 years ago, we used to work a lot on the same building. And now today, we have a lot of workflows that are global, worldwide. So we produce the content in the UK, we send it to the US for post-production, and then maybe in Hong Kong, France, and Italy for subtitling or dubbing. And the last, or in parallel to those three trends, there is another one, which is the cloud adoption. 3 years ago, Amazon started proposing the cloud as really an on-demand service where you can basically just buy power. Today, you can buy power and run services on top of this power, okay, in a very scalable and cost-effective way. And I'm going to focus some of the use cases on the cloud as an enabler for your ideas and how we can help you doing that in a very cost-efficient and smoothless way. If we look at the cloud and what a cloud system is, the cloud is basically a VM that runs somewhere, and then a big object store. That's what the storage in the cloud is called. If you want to send files to the cloud because you want to implement in the cloud part of your workflow, there are two pain points, what I call the pain points. The first one is the WAN. You have to transfer files from your on-premise location where the content is produced to the cloud. That usually goes through the internet, so it's a WAN link. And as you all know, this might be slow even if you have a lot of bandwidth. That's where Aspera technology was born at the beginning. We wanted to solve this first bottleneck. And well, now it's some years, people just know we work for WAN file delivery. There is a second bottleneck, second pain if you want, that is writing to the cloud storage. It's not a simple operation, it's usually slow. And in most of the case, you cannot do it directly from your computer. You have first to transfer the file to the cloud and then write it to the object store, which complicates the process entirely. Aspera has a unique offer where you can, from your on-premise server, Aspera server, transfer the file to the cloud and transparently write it to an object store. I don't want to go into the technical part of it, but I just want to go on the benefit. It doesn't matter for you whether you are sending the file to another node of your internal network using an Aspera transfer or to the cloud. It's completely the same thing. It's transparent. Okay? And this has a lot of advantage. And of course, it's very fast. So we can go up to 1 gigabit per second writing directly into the cloud storage. It is really as fast as using your on-premise infrastructure. And if we go and look at some of the use cases where actually the cloud has been used by our customers and where we help them in achieving what they wanted to do, the first idea, really the first use case I would say, is data replication among multiple cloud systems. This can be the same cloud like Amazon, one node in the US, one node in Europe, but even between Amazon and Azure. And the cloud offering is growing quite a lot. You have Amazon, you have Azure, Google is coming up, and other vendors are building their own cloud systems. So depending on the use that you want to do for your data, you might want to decide to use one cloud system or another one. And it's very important to have a technology that transparently can move data between those two different cloud systems without you even realizing that you are doing that. If we look at some production use case, so you have a new project coming in, new content, and you need to deliver those content. You might not have the bandwidth inside on-premise to do that up to the scale that you have been requested. You might not have enough time to scale your infrastructure in order to deliver that project. Or you might not have the interest in doing that because this project will run for a month. So it makes no sense to buy new hardware and scale your infrastructure. The cloud in this case is an excellent mean in order to achieve the goal. And you can use Aspera to send the file to the cloud as you would do with your internal file server, and from there distribute it all over the world without worrying about the bandwidth, because the system will just scale bandwidth depending on what the needs are. And all that, again, you don't have to change your workflow, you don't have to change the user interface, you don't have to change the experience of your operators. It is exactly as if you would use your on-premise infrastructure. Same thing if you need to do person-to-person delivery. Think about, again, you have to deliver file to people, and all of a sudden you have a huge file or a huge set of assets that you need to deliver to 1,000 people in the next week. Of course, scale your infrastructure in order to do that. It's very expensive, and it takes time to do it. With the cloud, you can just do it in one day. And now I'm going to go into two real customer examples. The first one is UFC, which we being European probably don't know what it is, but it's a show in the US where people just beat each other to death, basically. And it's very famous. It's Americans. But what UFC does, so they have venues all over the United States, so that's a big country. They go in and they shoot footages on the venue, and then they have to transcode those footages for the different devices and then deliver them to the devices. And they were able, using Aspera, and I suggest you go onto our website. There is a very nice video we shoot together with UFC where they explain how they do that. But they were able with Aspera, with basically no initial investment, to do that completely using the cloud and profiting from our transfer technology in order to do that in a glitch. So they go in, they should send it to the cloud, 14 parallel transcoding process, and delivering directly from the cloud. There is no initial investment on their side. That's where I think the cloud is an enabler for innovation. I'm going to go into that discussion in a bit. The other example I want to make, I think this is really an everyday problem that you guys might have. You have your infrastructure, a bunch of transcoders, a bunch of QCs, a bunch of hardware, which usually are enough for the amount of data that you have to treat. So you're used to receive your file with Aspera, maybe use our workflow automation system or another workflow automation systems to go through all the different steps of QC, parallel transcoding, and so on. And then you have your customer asking you, hey, I have a project, will run for a month, I will send you 10 times the volume that I used to send you. And I'm going to pay you for that, but it's going to run for a month. And there, the decision has to be taken. What do we do? Are we going to go out and buy 40 more transcoders in order to do that? Or, I mean, we cannot do it with what we have on premise. That's my customer problem. And we came in with a solution saying, okay, well, you're using Aspera. Our promise is on-premise, on the cloud is exactly the same thing. So why not get the file in? If we have enough transcoding power on-premise, we do that. Otherwise, we send the file to the cloud. We use a service like encoding.com or Zencoder to do the transcoding and bring it back. And this is what we are going to have a look at. And this was possible because the entire system didn't have to change. It's exactly the same thing, exactly the same technology. So very simple. I have my Aspera Orchestrator, which is our workflow automation system where this has been implemented, which drives you through the process. Get a file in. In this case, the business logic is not, do we have a transcoder available on premise, but it's more, let's go and ask somebody to take the decision for the demo purposes. And depending on the decision, we go and run the transcoding on premise, or we do the transcoding on the cloud. And the next step is either we do an archive on premise because this is a 10 years live content, or it's a 1 month live content like we did for UEFA on the Euro 2012 Championship, where every content that was produced, its life cycle was really a month, so it made no sense to have a big file archive on premise. You're better read off in terms of financial aspects in using a file archive system that is on the cloud. And that is really as simple as doing an Aspera transfer, so completely transparent for your customer. They use the same technology they used to use the day before. And in your case, you just have an operator or a business logic that tells Aspera, okay, instead of sending it to this storage, which is on-premise, you have to send it to a cloud instance, an Aspera server that is in the cloud instance. So it will use the Aspera protocol. It will store the file on the cloud storage. And from there on, you basically have Zencoder controlled by the Aspera automation platform, which will do the work. Once it's done, we'll bring it back on premise, or we will do the final delivery to your final customer. Okay? And this is all happening at very high speed, very reliable, very secure, because all the file movement, depending whether it's on premise or on public internet to the cloud, is done with our protocol, which, as you probably know, it's reliable and secure. So if I have to think about in general the cloud, and now I can switch the discussion a little bit on DPP, I don't think personally that the cloud is a revolution in terms of, okay, we are all going to go to the cloud. I don't think this is even a question. But I think the cloud is a very good example on how you can go from ideas to maybe prototype, or even just trying things out in a bit, and in a very cost-efficient way. I was at another panel 2 months ago, and the entire discussion was about how do we bring kids from Facebook to the couch. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about it. 15 years old, they don't watch TV. That's a big problem for our market. I mean, it's probably not a big problem for society, but for our market, it is a big problem. How do we bring those kids back to the couch? That was the panel. We went on for like 2 hours discussing about it, which was crazy, I think. And everybody was saying, well, we need to have a really full immersive second screen experience. That's the only way we have. But nobody had an idea of what the second screen experience should be. Probably because we were far from being 15s ourselves in the panel. But that's what I mean. You can have an idea of what the second panel experience has to be. It could be right or wrong, doesn't matter. If it's cost effective in implementing it and trying it out, if it costs, I don't know, maybe 10 grand to do it, you can actually afford and try it out. If you have to build an entire on-premise infrastructure in order to do that, then it makes no sense. If we now switch to DPP is a great thing. I think standards are always good. And you have tools like BitChecker and others that help you in making sure your content is DPP compatible. What you need on top of that is a way to scale and to adapt. DPP is one standard. The US will come up with another standard. As you know, standards are meant to be broken at one point. That's why we build standards, which is kind of weird. But what you want at the end is the possibility to very quickly switch from DPP to something else, switch from on-cloud, on-premise, and do all that in a very secure and efficient way in terms of file delivery. So that you can have DPP validation in the UK and other format in the US, and you can just do this transfer and enable your global workflow in a secure and reliable way. That's right.